violence, 1996, I think it was, somewhere in around there. And what happened is that this area was where the homeless and the street boys, mostly black and brown, would gather at night. So on these side buildings, you can see they offer a little bit of shelter, like if it's raining, for example.
Yeah.
But the boys would gather here. The church had some social programs, food, clothing, medicine, things like that. So insofar as one can be safe as a child on the street, this was a safe place for these boys. And so the military dictatorship falls in 1985. The new constitution is 1989. So we're talking 1996. We're talking about the very, very early years of a nascent democracy. And so what we're seeing in this time period is escalated violence from the police, state violence, toward these black boys and men who are on the streets. And so the rhetoric of the police is becoming more and more confrontational, more and more violent. The police are saying things like, don't worry, we're going to clean up the rat problem in the city, and this kind of thing. And so one night in July, then a car in the middle of the night while the boys are sleeping does come around here. A shooter gets out of the back of the car and he opens fire into this mass of sleeping boys.
Oh, wow.
He then gets back into the car. The car doubles back around to another location that was known for homeless boys to sleep. They snatch 4 of those boys, force them into the car, shoot them repeatedly, and drive them to Flamingo Beach to dump the bodies there, because they're trying to create a confusing crime scene to not get caught. But the problem is, one of the boys inside that car, who was shot 4 times, didn't die.
Oh.
And he played dead, and so he was the only survivor who was able to identify who the shooters were. So of the 4 shooters involved, 3 guesses, first 2 don't count. 3 of the 4 of them were off-duty police officers.
That's crazy.
Yes. So that's known as the Candelária Massacre, which took place here. So let's look at how the memory has been deliberately erased. You can see here, there used to be a stone with gold letters embossed in it that had the dates and told the story of what happened at the massacre. There was a different cross here. It was a bigger cross. It was painted green, decorated in gold, and it had the names of the boys who were murdered here. I personally watched the letters fall off the stone break off the base, the stone break into pieces and disappear one piece at a time. One day I came here, the green cross was uprooted and lying in the grass. About a month later, that disappears. Then there's nothing here. And then a couple years ago, they replaced this cross here. But you can see this has been here a while. This is not new. This has been here a while, and it's still not decorated, and they still haven't replaced the stone. So this place is now unmarked. You have no idea that this is where the Candelária Massacre happened.
That's sad, man.
So what happens to this boy who survives and identifies the police? Within the year, he's shot again 4 times. And he survives that shooting. He's been shot 8 times. He's still alive. But of course, that's unsolved crime. They don't know what happened. So this causes an international concern that this boy just is not going to be able to live in Brazil for having identified the police as the perpetrators of the massacre. So Switzerland agrees to adopt him.
Oh, wow.
So he gets nationality, he gets moved to Switzerland, where he still lives until today. And a couple of years ago, we had the 20th anniversary of the massacre. And so he, for the first time, 20 years later, decides to come back to Brazil to be part of the ceremony of the 20th anniversary of the massacre. And during that event, you can see there's another memorial here that's almost invisible. That is stencils of the dead boys representing who died
wow.
in the shooting. So this young man comes back to Brazil for the first time in 20 years, and he does so in complete secret with his own security team. And the first night that he's here in his hotel room, guess what happens? Ding dong, somebody delivers a pizza anonymously. Just the old, we know, like, we can reach you, we know where you are. Yeah, we can get to you if we want to.
Wow.
The anonymous pizza's delivered to him when he's traveled here in secret with his own security detail. So he left Brazil, and he says he'll never set foot in this country again.
I don't blame it.
Yeah. To add insult to injury, when the Workers' Party government ended in an institutional coup and Dilma was ousted, she was replaced by an austerity, neoliberal austerity government. So of course we start with that whole rhetoric of tightening the belt and, you know, cutting the budget because there's no money. And all of these years, these 20 years, this young man has received a small Social Security check from Brazil because he's still alive, but he has a variety of disability issues for having been shot 8 times.
Yeah.
And so Temer then, when they were doing the austerity budget, they cut his benefit, as if Brazil has to balance its budget on the Social Security check of the survivor of the Candelária massacre.
That's disgusting.
It is absolutely foul. Absolutely foul. But an interesting part of the story that comes out of this, what comes from this, is during this really big international incident, several dignitaries from around the world are writing letters to Rio de Janeiro about this incident and what's happening. And this is the origin of a lot of stories that in Brazil the police just shoot black boys, which is why I wasn't sure what you were referencing earlier. And one young man named Michael Jackson, with a sister named Janet, wrote very, very stern letters to the city demanding the full force of the law and complete, answerability for this incident that has happened here.
Michael Jackson did that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And Michael Jackson was supposed to open later that year in October the South American leg of the Dangerous Tour. And it was supposed to open in Rio de Janeiro. That concert never happened. Michael Jackson refused to perform in a city where things like this were happening to children. He said he couldn't sing and dance if children were being openly slaughtered in the streets of Rio. So that was canceled. They reorganized the South American tour. It opened in Buenos Aires, and there was only one Brazilian concert, and that was in São Paulo.
Oh, wow.
And then several years later, I think it was 1998, maybe, Michael Jackson then returns to Rio de Janeiro with Spike Lee to make the video for They Don't Really Care About Us.
Oh, okay, so that's what that was about.
Yes, that's the whole story that relates back to the massacre here, and why Michael Jackson in Brazil is not a pop star. He's a saint. He's a prophet. He's regarded here at the highest of heights, beyond just being a singer or a celebrity or a pop star.
Yeah, that's good.
No one had stood up for the homeless black boys of Rio de Janeiro before him. He was the first person to publicly and globally call attention to the very real conditions of what black people, especially black children, were living in this country.
Okay, that's good. It's very interesting. That's an amazing story.